we go. It is Chicken Dinner, the 12th time we've talked with you live on a Thursday night leading up to yet another pretty decent football game on Thursday night between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. And before we do anything else, let me show my guy some love. Brewhand Luke, who without question is the first person to comment every single week on the show on YouTube and live on X with the simple comment first. And Michael Davis already. Cheers. I agree. We've got some y'all sweet tea that may or may not have some hooch in there. So we'll discuss that and more things coming up later on in the show. Jam-packed weekend of college football. And believe it or not, this is the last full Saturday of football on the calendar year. Isn't that kind of sad? Depending on how your season has gone, I guess it's either exciting or upsetting. But no more this season will we be able to flip the games on at noon Eastern, bet and sweat all day and all night with the games that end at midnight Eastern. It's been a whirlwind of a season. And there have been some things this year that have gone great. There have been others that have gone poorly. I'll talk to Kelly Stewart and Chris Thurston here in about 15 minutes. I know CT and I, 3 times this year, had quarterback one out at a certain school. It did not matter. Especially that game, UNLV. And who did UNLV play? UNLV and who did Sluka and them lose to? I can't remember. But we had UNLV quarterback basically buckled. And then the backup comes in and just shoves. It's been a very interesting year for college football. And I know we're all going to bet these games on Saturday. The action actually starts on Friday with the 3 games, the American, the Conference USA, and the Mountain West. And then on Saturday, 7 more games. The Big 12, the MAC, the SEC, the Sun Belt, the ACC, the Big 10. And don't forget the SWAC. Big SWAC game between Jackson State and Southern. So as we do on the show, I will open up with my BS, and then Kelly and Chris will join us at 7:15, give us their favorite looks for NFL, college football, maybe a basketball look or two along the way. And at 7:45, backed by popular demand, it's Corbie Craig, our calculator, our numbers whiz, who has actually gotten me kicked out and limited in 2 weeks of college basketball. It's cool, but it's also annoying. His totals have moved multiple points. Most of them have won. And as you know, he's been giving us these college football totals on this show for 3 months now, and they've been really, really good. The basketball has been even better. So we'll talk to Corbie at 7:45. There are so many comments right now flying in. Here's one from Rob Bach, LFG. Luke is adding a touchdown play in the Big Ten championship game. Noah Whittington, anytime touchdown plus 180. Here's one from Songlist. Yo, sweating out a Red Wings bet with a sprinkle on Dylan Larkin first goal at 14-1. All right, here's High Agent. Thanks, Sam. Cheers. I haven't really done anything yet. Let's talk about tonight's game, if we can. Another doozy on a Thursday night. There were some duds early in the season, and a lot of these Thursday night games, weeks 1 through 8, for the most part, were not good. Woo. NFC North showdown, Green Bay and Detroit. And this one is going to get good two-way action. Now, the Packers are becoming a little popular, but you also have to understand where this number was and where it is. The 11-day number in Vegas, or as a lot of us refer to it as, the look-ahead number, Detroit -6. It's a big number when you look at the market right now, is it not? Here you go, 3 all over. MGM 3.5, FanDuel 3.5. But a lot of these hooks are disappearing. You still have a nice one at Pinnacle. But a lot of these Vegas shops, Circa, Superbook, South Point, sitting 3. For a team that has 1 loss this year and that's 9-3 ATS, doesn't it feel like it's a little cheap on Detroit? The big concern that a lot of these books have with the Lions, at least tonight, it's not a big picture thing, it's more of a tonight thing, is that the Lions defense has a bunch of bodies that are either out or hurt. We know that Aiden Hutchinson's been out since the Dallas game. We know that. But other guys have found their way on the shelf. And if you go back to the second half of that game a week ago on Thanksgiving, remember, the Lions didn't give up a point in the first half against Chicago. But you had a guy go out in the first quarter, a guy go out in the second quarter. And when these injuries pile up on an NFL defense, it's tough to circumvent the yardage and the points. and you go back and watch that second half, as a lot of these Vegas bookies have done, the Bears did whatever the Bears wanted in that second half. That's sort of built into this number. There are two schools of thought. One, this is cheap on Detroit at -3, and it's flat at a couple places, -3, -110. It looks easy to lay Detroit. The other school of thought is this Packers team is getting hot and Jordan Love is getting healthy. Remember, he was bothered by not only the knee, but the groin early in the season. And this has been an offense that's been very efficient over the last month. Rounding into form, healthy on the offensive line. Now, they do have one receiver out tonight, but we saw what this team could do last postseason, right? To go into Dallas and drop almost 50 points, to go blow for blow with San Francisco. DVOA-wise, the Packers are number 6 in the NFL. Now, the Lions are a better team at full strength, but doesn't this feel weird to look up on a Thursday night? Both teams have full rest. They both played last week on Thanksgiving. We haven't seen the Lions as a 3-point favorite at home all year. The closest we got, Detroit was 4 on Seattle. 4. This is a really big adjustment. And this total has also been bet up. This was 51.5 when we did the morning show on BetQL Daily today, 9 a.m. to 12, Monday through Friday. It was 51.5. There was only 152. Look at the board now. 52.5 and 53. Believe it or not, I leaned under early. So at 52.5, 53, I have to really like the under now because it's crossed through the 52. 28-24 is now an under. This morning, 28-24 is an over. But numbers change, as we know, throughout the day. And you see some really sharp shops. How about Circa at 53? 411 at 53. Buckeye at 53. A lot of juice 52.5s. I'm sorry. My favorite play, at least as of now, kickoff at 8:15 Eastern. I got about an hour to go. My favorite play as of now is the under. And let's call it 52.5. I don't think the game's going to land 53. But 28-24 feels very possible. And could it be a track meet? Of course. You have two top 7 offenses colliding in Detroit. No weather, no wind in the dome at Ford Field. But I'll probably be on the under tonight. I talked to a couple guys for a story today for Fox. And the sentiments are the same. And these are all Vegas bookmakers, one for the Superbook, one for the Golden Nugget, one for WinBet. They've all said the same thing. They're going to get destroyed if Boise wins the Mountain West Championship game. But you can't exactly book this game the way it should truly be booked because of the liability in the future market. So the Boise bet started in the summer, and maybe there weren't that many. But what happened week 2? Do you remember? You go back to September 7th. Boise goes to Oregon and plays at Eugene and almost beats Oregon. From that point forward, the Boise appetite picked up and just turned into a snowball that turned into a boulder. And now this thing is just rolling downhill. And it also hasn't helped that Ashton Jeanty has morphed into one of the best players in college football. Is he winning the Heisman? Don't think so. I also don't hope, because some of us have Travis Hunter. That would be ideal. But Jeanty is a machine. And Genty's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL. It's also a game Friday night in Boise on the blue turf with temperatures expected in the 30s. Not great for a UNLV offense from Vegas going out into the cold. But look at this price. Today, this moved out to 5 at a couple places. Superbook is at 5. I just talked to Tony Miller at the Golden Nugget. He's at 5. Can we bet UNLV? I think we can. I had UNLV in the first meeting, as some of you remember, and UNLV was in control for 3 quarters. Boise takes the control late in the 4th, and then Boise had that penalty, 4th quarter. UNLV didn't touch the ball for the final 8 minutes. So they did a pretty decent job, at least for 2.5 quarters, at slowing Ashton Jeanty. This is a big, big move, though, today, because this was 3.5, 4 on Boise. And now we're 4.5, 5. And 1 point might not sound like a whole bunch, but to get 4.5 now, when this was sitting 3.5, I'm a little more intrigued. I definitely think you're going to have some support at this number at 5 and at 4.5, because this will kick off tomorrow, about 25 hours from now, UNLV Boise. I don't believe the 5s and the 4.5s are going to last. So you saw the push today on Boise. I think you get a push tomorrow for UNLV. But some great games and some new matchups too. How about Georgia, Texas for the first time playing for an SEC title? They played earlier this season in Austin, but first time ever for an SEC championship game. Clemson, SMU, ACC championship game. Okay. And in the Big Ten, Oregon and Penn State, longtime Big Ten rivals. Sharps are betting, believe it or not, Penn State. The public narrative is James Franklin in a big game. Got to bet against James Franklin. I said this today, and we'll get to Kelly and Chris in just a minute. I see them both popped in here in the chat. We were talking on the morning show and also on Chicken Dinner in mid-November about Jake Paul on the money line. Jake Paul was minus 190 on Thursday night before the fight on Friday. And everybody on the show is saying that's kind of cheap on Jake Paul. Now, a lot of you don't want to lay minus 190, and I understand that. I get it. But you could put Jake Paul in moneyline parlays. And I'm not saying that Jake Paul is Oregon and that Mike Tyson is Penn State. And I get why you'd want to take maybe Penn State plus 3.5. Because if Oregon's up 10, pulls the starters, backdoor Jackson, whatever. Do you think Penn State's really going to win the game? Do you trust Penn State? Do you trust Franklin? Do you trust the lack of speed at receiver? Do you trust Penn State's running attack? I have my concerns. So what I'm thinking about is putting Oregon at minus 170, minus 175 in a couple parlays. You minimize the juice, and this might be square. It might seem square, but I don't know. Like, let's take, for example, Oregon and the Buffalo Bills. If you put Oregon money line and Buffalo money line in a parlay this weekend, Oregon plays Saturday, Buffalo plays Sunday. You take two favorites of minus 180, sandwich them together, and now we have a payout of plus 150. Not laying 190, not laying $2. You're getting that plus price. And that'll be something that I'll be thinking about as we get closer to kickoff on Saturday in the Big Ten championship game. Still funny to me, Oregon and Penn State in the Big Ten championship. That's the 8 o'clock kick on the East Coast. Another game that I know I'm going to bet, and this will not be popular, especially if you bet Atlanta last week in the NFL. Kirk Cousins only threw, 4 interceptions in that game? Look at this number right now on Atlanta and Minnesota. We're seeing a 6 right now at DraftKings. Are you kidding me? Now, Atlanta is no fun as a favorite when they have to win and win by margin. But you're telling me Sam Darnold and that team are now laying 5.5, 6? And I had some Atlanta last week in some contests. I played them in a couple different things. They should have won the game. They had 2 times the amount of first downs. They almost doubled up the Chargers in total yardage, but they didn't win on the scoreboard. And we all remember Kirk Cousins throwing 2 awful interceptions in the red zone and a pick 6 on 4th down. 4th down, he throws a pick 6. They still get the ball with a chance to win the game, or at least make it interesting at the end. Throws another interception. If you can somehow push that to the side and ignore what you saw last, tell me Atlanta plus 5.5 is a bad bet. Against a Minnesota team that has a good defense, that plays well in that building. But Minnesota's been letting some kind of shaky teams hang around. Remember the Jacksonville game? 12-7. The Tennessee game, 23-13. The Bears game, they could have lost to the Bears. 30-27 in overtime. They let the Bears hang around. And last week, they're outgained by Arizona and sneak out another win Didn't cover, but they beat Arizona 23-22. This is a team that has been good, but has been lucky. A lot like Kelly Stewart's favorite team, Kansas City. I am on Minnesota plus 5.5. That's going to be what I'll be looking at in the NFL. And I'll put out all the plays tomorrow at chickenxdinner on social. And you know the drill. Picks are out, record at the bottom of every pick. And we hope to go down the home stretch and really make some more money as we get through college football bowl season and into the NFL postseason. All right, my guests are here. No more stammering. Chris Thurston, Kelly Stewart. The show is Double Down, which you can find wherever you consume your podcasts. And they join me now. You guys are going to be partying. Kelly, I see you're muted. You might want to click that.
Of course I'm muted. I don't want to say anything like, off camera that may get me canceled. I stay on mute. Okay. Just like my phone stays on Do Not Disturb.
This show is rated R. So you can say, well, maybe not whatever you want, but you could say most of the things you want. Okay. You guys are going to be partying this weekend together, right?
Yeah. Gonna hang out in New York City. Gonna go see K-State get their asses kicked by St. John's, and go see some Christmas bars. CT's got a list of Christmas bars that he wants to go check out. Ariel is booking us reservations as we speak, texting me.
Yep, big Christmas guy, Sammy. As you know, we hung out a couple weeks ago, and you have an unbelievable Christmas mix on Spotify that you hooked me up with. Hasn't stopped here at CT Betts' house or in his car. So thank you for that. We're looking forward to going to New York City together. And we're drinking Vivas too, Kelly, at the Canuck, watching the championship games.
So unfortunately, we had some tech issues, or our producer had some tech issues, so we did not do a double down today. But I said, why would we need to do it when we're going to hang out with Sammy? It's going to be live anyway. It's just like, now this is our show. We're going to hijack it. You're done, Sammy. See, this is the CT and KIV next 30 minutes.
I would have no issue with that. There's the show on social. The kids are calling it X now. Double Down KIV CT, sponsored by Wager Talk and by Viva Seltzer. Very fitting drawing of the two of you together, hanging out. A bunch of bet slips on the table of football. Is that a pencil in your ear now? I didn't realize there was a pencil in your ear. The pencil should be in CT's ear, not in your ear. Are you guys going to be betting as a team this weekend with all these college games? Because usually you line up on a lot of the same sides. Is there a side you're going to play on Saturday?
So Chris's good friend Joey Cheese said last night in my gambling group chat with some of the Fade You guys, that you're not allowed to win unless CT wins. So usually when I'm with CT, I hate to be opposite of him. I think we might be opposite on one game. But other than that, I'd like to think we're going to be fairly aligned, because Joey's right. Like, when you're opposite of CT and you're at the game or you're watching said game, it's kind of a miserable experience.
Well, you know how I am, Sammy. I'm a very intense person, and we're not throwing around $25 here on games. We got quite a bit of money on them, and I get into it, if you will.
There was a time we went out. I couldn't remember also, CT, when we had that UNLV quarterback out. Who did they play? Was it Fresno?
It was Fresno State and Mike Keene. And remember, Mike Keene breaks his hand on the second series as well.
We had 3 quarterback tips this year. That's right. It was Fresno. And then the backup came in and just shoved it right up our you-know-what. Yeah. And we watched that game together. And it was one of those days where things are not going your way. We also made a second half bet on Kansas. That did not go the way it was supposed to go. And that was the night, Kelly, that Chris disappears for 10, 15 minutes and comes back and just shows me his phone with a bet that I will not repeat how much it was for on the Alabama money line against Georgia. And I wasn't pissed, but we had done everything together that day, like every bet we made together. This motherfucker goes rogue and drops a bomb on Alabama, doesn't even tell me. And then Alabama's up 28-0, and he's like, "Look what I did." And I'm like, "Am I in on this one?" And he goes, "Oh, my bad. I didn't tell you." I'm like,
yeah, those don't really work out very well for me. Usually if I tail CT, there's a couple of times this year where we were opposite, like on our survivor pick, like in the second half. Like if our team was losing, I took the Browns. We had the Eagles in survivor. I took the Browns second half, and he's like, I just bet the Eagles second half. I was like, well, I bet the Browns. And then there was like another game where I bet the second half, and he's like, oh, go figure. She took the second half against our survivor pick. I'm like, at that point in time, it's just the best I can hedge, right? And it just so happens that they both happen to win. But sometimes those paybacks do happen his way too, Sammy. Don't forget that.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know. He feels like the bailout king.
Sometimes I will say this. Sometimes he is the bailout king. And other times he just gets absolutely screwed by the refs who put, 0.4 seconds on the clock and lets UConn shoot free throws. Like the gambling gods giveth and the gambling gods taketh away.
Sammy was supposed to. I asked Sammy yesterday morning. I was like, hey, I got 2 tickets to the game. Amanda not feeling well. Why don't you cruise down with me? I'll drive, do your work.
You didn't go?
He unfortunately couldn't make it. And I said to Julian Edlow, our buddy, he couldn't make it either. And I said, listen, I already know what's going to happen. I'm going to get something ridiculous is going to happen. Baylor's not going to cover. I'm going to want to blow my brains out on the way home. And driving back home in a snowstorm after that, Sammy, I'm sure you saw it, puts time back on the clock. The game was over. Rob Wright makes a layup to go down 2. I'm getting 2.5. I'm getting 3. And yeah, they put time back on the clock for Diarra, and he drains 2 free throws.
I literally was just flipping back and forth because Ohio State was getting their ass kicked. And I was like, all right, I got to stop watching this Marquette game because it was much better when I wasn't watching. And so I'm like flipping back and forth, and I have YouTube TV, so I'm on a little bit of a delay. Yeah. And that the group chat comes in, and Cheese is just going bananas about UConn. And I reminded him, I said, I don't forget how you behaved after the Super Bowl. Your day is coming. And he's like, wow, you're still mad at me from the Super Bowl. I said, yeah, listen, I am not a forgiving human being. I am going to keep these little moments to myself until I find the opportune. And then I'm just going to stab you repeatedly via text on a game where I then get the worst, you get the worst beat of your life against you. And I'm going to remind you of what a great handicap it was.
Sammy, I think we just got the title for the show. I'm going to stab you, I believe is the team leader right now for title of the show. What were you saying, Chris?
I know we're going to get into the championship games, but I'm going to tell you both one thing right now. And I watched that game live. Okay. And obviously I'm biased to Baylor being a grad student there, but listen, Baylor loses. BJ Edgecombe doesn't play, gets ruled out. I found that out 30 minutes before the game. I knew it. I saw the voice of the Bears, John Morris. He told me. No one knew. I still didn't get off of it. And so he doesn't play. Then Jeremy Roach, the transfer from Duke, who's been unbelievable for Baylor. And I know the season's still early, but he's become their leader. He gets hurt a minute and a half, 2 minutes into the second half. And now they're playing 5-6 guys the rest of the game. That UConn team isn't going anywhere. They're nowhere near the last 2 years of what they were. They have a ton of problems. I don't care that Caravan wasn't playing. They have a freshman who's doing everything. That team is in trouble, and they barely beat Baylor. Baylor playing 5 guys there and got into foul trouble at the end. It's just this is not the same UConn team. I'll leave it at that.
I would agree with that. But
not on defense.
Do you guys believe these, I don't know, accusations, these rumors, whatever, about how many referees hate Hurley? Do you guys think that like actually exists? Like that referees have certain biases towards asshole coaches? Because I think we're going to start seeing whistles not go their way. I mean, obviously the one last night at home is going to be a little bit different, but some of these road games where they may be laying 4, 5, 6 points on the road, a couple whistles don't go their way.
Yep.
We saw it in Maui. I mean, we did. They lose 3 straight, and somebody put together a package or a montage of Danny Hurley crying like a baby and screaming at officials and having his assistant coach, hold me back, bro. Right. That's going to get annoying. And the wild part is we didn't really get to see a lot of that last year or the year before because they were just so dominant. Maybe this has been there all along, but the team has been so good to circumvent his temper tantrums. I can't imagine that officials are going to give him the benefit of the doubt if he continues to do what he's done so far this season. But really, they don't play the defense that they've played. I mean, I was looking at some of the advanced numbers, top 10 defense 2 years ago, top 5 defense last year. this year in defense, small sample size, granted, but 80th, 84th or something like that. And, that's a Baylor team that's shorthanded, that's young, that's going on the road, hostile environment. And they went blow for blow with UConn.
Yep. Yeah, that's Sammy, really cool place to play there. You and I should get down to a game later in the year. 12,000 people. I mean, obviously the students were rocking and rolling. They're getting ready to go into midterms, and they got bars on campus. It was like being back in college. It was pretty cool. We went to a couple bars before, and we had a good time, even though what happened there at the end. And
did you feel really old, CT? I was back in Manhattan with Ariel, and it was crazy because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to feel so old going to the bars. But the reality is the college kids don't go to the bars anymore. They're like weird. They don't drink, or if they drink at home. I didn't quite understand it because I was like there, and I'm like, there's a lot of people older than me here. I thought I was going to be like the old lady at the bar, like with the college kids, and it just wasn't the case.
It was exactly that way, Kelly. It was a lot of guys and you could tell that they were in their mid 30s, early 40s, and they probably went to UConn. They're all decked out in their stuff. And those were the guys that were at the bar. You're right. It's different than we were growing up. It's not a bar scene, and they're not drinking as much. They're doing their gummies and whatnot. And I don't know, playing their video games. It's a lot different than when we grew up in college. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw the picture and I'm like, wow, they have college kids going to the bars in stores. Like maybe Manhattan's just screwed up. I guess it's just the whole dynamic now of what are they? Gen Z?
Gen Z. Yeah.
Got a comment from Jason Monaco. CT bets, Kelly in Vegas, Viva with an exclamation point. And then before we get to the college games, and maybe I'll let you guys go one in, one out. This is from Fluffhead 123. He's looking at a wheel between Christian Watson under 3.5 catches, but over 60 yards. There's no correlation on this bet, so that increases the payout. This is a 7-1 shot at this sportsbook, FanDuel. Under catches, but over yards. Did you two do anything? Chris, you go first. Anything on Thursday night?
I didn't do anything. I know Kelly has an opinion on this game, so I'll let her kind of take the floor. I didn't know what to do here, Sammy. I was listening to before we got on what you were saying. I thought you made great cases for both here. Seems like, you want to lay the short number here with the Lions at home, but again, probably the most banged up team in the NFL. Packers playing great football right now. I got this little stat from our buddy Brad Powers. This is kind of crazy. Campbell, since he's been the coach of the Lions, he's covered 70% of their games.
Oh my God.
How nuts is that? That's insane.
Listen, I said on Thanksgiving, I didn't want to step in front of the Lions. And of course, we all know what happened.
Yep.
Well, 10's a little different than 3, though, right?
Sure.
Getting 10.
Yeah. But I also didn't trust the Bears, and they had real opportunities to win that game. I mean, this is the Lions team that's been very, very dominant under Dan Campbell. That number still surprises me, though. I would have probably said like mid-60s, not 70%.
I can't believe the total has gone up to 53. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Indoor game, 2 really good offenses. Let me pull the screen up real quick on OddsLogic. 52.5 is your consensus number right now. There are some 53s. Chris Andrews just went to 53, but now Pinnacle is coming back down. And I don't have a feeling that the 53s are going to last. So if you're an under player and you're going to bet this game in 45 minutes, look at that. North Star, Pinnacle coming down closer to 52.5. A lot of these rec books, 52.5, 52.5, 52.5. I should probably just play some under right now. I don't know what I'm waiting for. But Kelly, are you playing side or total in the game, or is it a pass?
I did not, but I did do a Splash Sports quick picks lineup for tonight. I talked to Ariel Epstein earlier, and she was trying to make a case for Sam Laporta, and I said, I don't know against this Green Bay defense. Are you sure? And she goes, well, they give up the most yards to tight ends. I think they're like 5th in the NFL. So I have Sam Laporta over 38.5 receiving yards. I have Jordan Love over 1.5 touchdowns. I have David Montgomery over 58.5 rushing yards. That's my least favorite one. I shouldn't have probably added a 4th, but it just makes the payout so much better. But of course it does. And look, Jared Goff just really hasn't been trying to air it out as of late. I don't know why. I guess if you have a 2-headed monster in the backfield, it just makes more sense to run it. And then I have Brandon McManus over 6.5 kicking points.
Okay. I just bet some under 53 minus 105. Talk me out of that. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. You got a good number and you got a minus 105 there. I think that's decent. So I will call that the Thursday night bet of the show. I don't love it, but for some action, I will play it. All right, let's go to college then. Kelly, take me wherever you want to go. Favorite college bet, side or total? What is it?
Actually, let's do this just for entertainment purposes because Chris and I talked about this earlier in the week, and I thought I was going to end up being on Georgia with him. Then I made kind of a joke how funny it would be for a team that's only won the Big 12 4 times to win the SEC in their first year. And then I started looking at Texas a little bit more, and I started looking at that game where Georgia just absolutely dominated there in Austin. I'm not sure Georgia is as good as advertised here, and I think Texas has a really solid defense. I gave this out earlier on BetQL with you and Joe. Oh, I said, if you like Georgia, you take 3. If you like Texas, you lay 2.5. Do not make that mistake, as Sammy shows you on the odds logic screen. There is still 2.5s available, and there is still 3s available. So make sure you bet accordingly. I think this Texas defense is the real deal, and I think that is how Texas is going to win this game. But CT texted me earlier in the week. He said, should I bring you a Georgia chain? Should I bring it to New York City? And I said, yes. And then I go, wait a minute, I think I'm going to be on Texas. So I did end up laying 2 with Texas.
Yeah, that's sort of a role that I'm not used to you being in. When you sent the list of games this morning, I saw 2 favorites and a dog, and I'm thinking,
yeah,
what did you do with Kelly in Vegas? What, like, you're not a Texas -2 person. You're a Georgia money line person.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I just don't think this is a Georgia team that is worth backing. I was on Georgia Tech on Friday night, and boy, was I kicking myself, Sam. I was like, oh my God, you have $0 on the money line. What is wrong with you? You have changed, you giant, you know what? And so I was really glad that Georgia won the game. I mean, in 8 overtimes, I was very glad because I knew at that point the cover was never in doubt once it goes to the overtime and you're getting double digits. But boy, I was really wrecked that Georgia Tech had 0 money line dollars in my pocket. But man, I just don't think Georgia's as good as advertised. Whenever you have, a bunch of 24-year-olds go to the NFL that were, COVID seniors, 6-year seniors, it's going to happen. But they also have some off the field issues that have carried over to the locker room. Look, bottom line, I don't think Carson Beck is that good.
Okay, fair enough. Chris, how about you? Where do you want to go?
I think Kelly's going to be pretty happy, Sam, because her and I haven't talked about this game since Monday. And I told her I lean Georgia, hadn't made a play yet. And I've come around here and I'm on the horns. And this is a 3-unit play for me, Sammy. This is the first time I'm giving it out. I'm going to tweet it out after. So if you're
not only a flip, but a 3-unit flip.
3-unit flip here. And as you both know, I was at this game back in October, and the Dogs just absolutely manhandled them in Austin. But kind of since then, like Kelly has said, they've kind of just been going through the motions. They just getting by, and this isn't the Dogs D that we're used to seeing. And they're allowing like over 25 points per game since that win in October. And yeah, I get it. You're playing the game in Atlanta, so that's advantage Georgia, and they're no stranger to this game. But even though, like, with the question marks there at the trigger man position for Texas, I feel like whether it's Ewers, who's a little banged up, or Manning on the center, and I do think if Ewers goes, I do think they're going to have packages for Arch to go, and I think that's going to be difficult because Kirby's going to have to game plan for both quarterbacks to be on their center. I think that Texas is going to be able to put up points on this Georgia D. And I think, like Kelly said, this Texas D has been great lately. And, they've only given up 17 points or less in its last 4. I think they're going to be able to stand tall here and make Beck make some mistakes. I like Texas to win and cover this game, and they get their first ever SEC championship in their first year. 3-unit play. And for the sake of the show, Sammy, bet online -2.5, -115. That's what we're going to go with here.
Okay, I see that at a couple shops. Superbook 2.5. Now, John Murray told me today that they did take a sharp bet on Georgia at +3, but let's understand that this open Texas 1.5, 2 got bet to 3, and some guys are still laying 3. So number important per usual. If you can lay a 2.5, there's one at Circa, there's one at Superbook. FanDuel has 2.5 -120. Bet online 2.5, 15. And if you're on the Georgia side, go take a 3. This quote from Tony Miller, it's coming out in the story that I wrote tonight. You'll love this, Kelly. Our buddy Tony says it's the first day of the rodeo in Vegas. And he said they're coming in hand over fist with their cowboy hats and their boots and they're all betting me Texas. He said all these Cowboys are firing at the Golden Nugget, like Spurs.
Well, that would make sense.
Guns.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know the rodeo was in Vegas. I don't have the rodeo calendar memorized.
Oh, come on. It's always the NFR is always the first week of December. That's all you have to ever remember.
Oh, okay. Well, we have 2,500 people watching live on YouTube and X right now to hear Kelly Stewart and Chris Thurston both like Texas at -2.5. Books are probably going to root for Georgia, but I think the toughest thing for anybody looking at this game is that you see Georgia and the name and think, wow, Georgia's a dog. Georgia's catching 3. And I know some sharp people that like Georgia as well, but this Georgia defense is nowhere near the Georgia defense that it was, 2 years ago and 3 years ago. So you two are both on Texas. Anything else before we wiggle back into the NFL? We got 12 championship games.
I'll say this much.
10 of them, 10 games.
I just got done doing Kelly and Murray right before this with John Murray. And he said, as it stands today, Thursday at, I think it was like 6 p.m., their biggest liability is actually Arizona State. So I was not going to really bet the Big 12 championship game. I did lean towards the Iowa State side. We spoke about it earlier today, Sammy. And I thought, you know what? I will give Matt Campbell the nod. I think what Kenny Dillingham has done is incredible. Their first season in the Big 12. Kudos to them. Iowa State is not as bad as the Iowa State team that lost at home to Texas Tech and then on the road to KU. I think they shot themselves in the foot multiple times in both of those games. So maybe this line is a little off. I think Iowa State's probably the right side. I haven't bet it yet. I don't think we're going to see a 3. You do still have the odd screen open, but we're starting to see 1.5s, still some 2s out there, 2.5s at FanDuel, it looks like. But I don't think we're going to see 3. I think if anything, it comes back the other direction. But I thought it was really interesting. He said that their biggest liability was going to be Arizona State.
Yeah, one guy told me today he wasn't even sure who Arizona State was playing because he's only written bets on Arizona State.
Oh, wow.
That's not usually the side that you want to be on. And remember, Iowa State actually opened as the favorite.
Yep.
And from a power rating standpoint, I think Iowa State still has a better number, but Arizona State has played better down the stretch. We'll see. These are great games, mostly because they're all tight spreads. I mean, look, Big 12 game, 1.5, MAC game, 2, SEC 3, Sun Belt 5.5, ACC 2.5, Big 10 3.5. Even the Conference USA game 4, the Mountain West 4.5, the American 4.5. I mean, we don't have any spreads this weekend aside from the Jackson State Southern game, which I don't think any of us are going to have bombs on. Jackson State 13.5. Every other game is sub 10. Hell, yeah. Every other game is sub 7. Now that I look at it, so
Sam, we'll see. Let's just stay on this game real quick here because this is one that I have given out and I bet on Monday. I think the wrong team's favored right now. I agree with the opener here. I bet Iowa State plus 2.5, and kind of like you said, right? The betting market loves the Sun Devils, and why wouldn't they, Sam? I mean, they crushed me this year betting against them. They were 10-2 straight up, and they were 10-2 ATS. But I think the spotlight's going to be a little too much for the young lad Dillingham, even though he's done a great job with this team here. I think there's a big-time coaching mismatch between Campbell over Dillingham. I'll take Matt Campbell all day in this one here. And I think it's a big loss that not many people are talking about. Jordan Tyson, the star wide receiver, he's out. And that's where Levitt, when he puts it in the air, he likes to go. And I get it. Scatterbo, he's been awesome, and he's finally healthy here. But Campbell is smart enough to know that he's going to have to clog the middle there. And I think that Iowa State defense is tough enough to get some stops there. And those wide receivers for Rocco Beck, man, they could fly. Excited to see what they could do inside the dome there at Jerry's World. So I think Iowa State wins this game.
Here's a comment from Chuck Bridge. Hate that I think ISU is the right play. Chuck, when you hate it, it feels so much better when it wins.
Chuck's a good guy, good friend of mine.
Yeah, I don't want to say that this is ever a good idea to do, but in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games, I had to recount because I said 12, but I meant 10. In these 10 games, I wondered, Kelly, what the record would be if we just took all 10 dogs. I think it'd be 6-4, 7-3, to be honest with you. ATS. That's not like a great way to handicap on a show, but I mean, these small, short favorites, a lot of them are super popular right now. Jeff Sherman today at the Superbook told me that there's a 10-1 ticket count on Miami of Ohio. 10-1. So and the spread hasn't really moved. Opens 1 and now it's 2. You know, there's a lot of tickets on Miami of Ohio.
But who is betting? This is the interesting thing. We talked about this. Who is betting the MAC championship game, right? Like, I can see a ton of people betting the SEC championship game. I can see a ton of people betting Penn State, Oregon. But why on earth, or who is betting the MAC championship game
at the same time as the Big 12 championship game? Those games are both noon Eastern.
Yeah, I remember when Chris was like, are you sure you want to go to this K-State basketball game? What if K-State's in the Big 12 championship game? I was like, I'm not worried about it. A, I don't think they're going to be in it, but also B, not really worried about it. Who makes these games at noon anyway?
Yeah, they can do a better job of spreading, making these games.
Well, yeah, there's like, I guess because Georgia, Texas is at 4, I guess, so they're going to get the marquee slot.
Let's go to the NFL here, and then I'll bring Corbie in, and then you guys can start packing for your trip this weekend. I am really falling for this Falcons side this week. I don't love their team big picture, but I do love 5.5 on the game. Favorite play or two in the NFL? Chris, you go first.
Yeah, I really like the Cards this week, Sammy. And, you know, these two teams, they just played, right? And the Seahorses, I like to call them the Seahorses, they won as 1-point underdogs, and now Cardinals come back here home. I like the Cards to get it done. I like the way that they're playing here. And like this one right here screams everybody's Seattle, getting points here. A lot of bets being written here on the Seahorses, guys. I like Arizona to get the job done here at home, win and cover. That's my best bet in the NFL this weekend.
Kel, what about you?
Yeah, I'm betting against Patrick Mahomes. Listen, here's the reality. I understand this is a very cheap line. And John even said that, you know, they saw some sharp guys play Kansas City at 3.5. Maybe they think this one's fallen a little too far from grace. Kansas City's dropped 6 straight, and I don't think anything's changing. I know a lot of people are, they're just waiting for the playoffs. Yeah, well, they've been on the ropes every single week, and eventually that is going to come to an end. I think it comes to an end this weekend. I like the Chargers +4, of course, a little bit on the money line. And then, of course, I'm playing against the Bengals defense once again. Sorry, but this is the season from hell for the Bengals, right? You got Joe Burrow, who is doing everything in his power, right? They've scored 30 or more points in 4 games this season, and then they still do not win games. That is insane. I think that Cooper Rush can take advantage of this defense. I think that this Dallas team wants to win. I think they're enjoying this little stretch of winning games. I just cannot back Cincinnati until we see them play some sort of defense. I've even heard crazier things out of the locker room. Not that the guys don't like Joe Burrow, but they can't relate to him. I don't know if you saw the Batmobile video earlier. People were like, you spent how much money on a car that you can't even drive? Like, I don't get it. He dresses like Ellen DeGeneres. There's something weird that we just don't know what's going on in Cincinnati. I get it. Offensively, great. Defensively, horrible. 5.5. You said you liked Atlanta. It's at 5, 4.5, 5.5 spread. I love every single week I find one. This week for me, it was Dallas, but I also like the Falcons play here. Kirk Cousins is not coming out and throwing 4 interceptions again this weekend. I think they have a nice bounce back. Might not get the win, but do get the cover.
I did see that meme. It was either yesterday or the day before with Burrow wearing that pink pantsuit. And the meme was Bengals are 4-8 since Burrow started dressing like a lesbian. And I laughed out loud. Very, very funny.
It's true.
Yes.
Listen, there are just weird things that, like, I get it. Quarterbacks are weird. We've seen guys do some strange things, but like, you are the leader of that locker room. And if they don't see you as such, guess what happens? Look what's happened with the Panthers since Bryce Young got put back in the starting position. You can watch, even Andy Dalton was on the sideline cheering for him. They did not win that game, but they did show fight and they had multiple opportunities. They got the cover. Those are the types of teams I want to back, not the ones in disarray, not the one with off the field issues, not the one with the quarterback being a complete and utter weirdo. I want to back teams with leadership potential. I want to back teams that show they want to go out and play and not have like weird distractions, right? Like, we can blame some of the Chiefs' issues on offensive players being hurt, but the blonde hair was enough. The Eminem hair. Yes, the Eminem hair for Joe Burrow. Look,
the pink coat and the shorts.
Listen, I can tell you this. I live right outside of Tampa. Baker Mayfield bought in almost immediately. That team wants to play for him. And we've seen it enough times over the last 2 years that you can now say, all right, these are teams I want to back. Maybe not each and every week, but in certain situations. Chris mentioned the Cardinals. I think this is a great opportunity to back the Cardinals this week after a couple of weeks ago against Seattle. I can't believe Seattle is basically sitting in the driver's seat right now in the NFC West. That sounds insane to say, but Geno has that locker room playing for him. That Seattle team is doing everything they can to win football games. And those are the types of teams I want to back. Various spots. Minnesota, Sam Darnold. Who would have thought? This team is kind of just hanging out there, right? They're going to get a nice slot here in the playoffs. What are they? The 5th seed? I don't know. There's just certain teams you want to look to back and certain teams you want to look to back against. It's still the NFL, and we've got to see where the rubber meets the road here in the last, 4 weeks?
Sad.
So that comment, if you're not watching and you're listening, Rocco Sal with the comment on Burrow, the blonde hair was enough. And one more comment, and then we'll bring in Corbie from Cat and Caveman, who I know was drinking Vivas with CT over the weekend. He says, I'm betting it. Miami, Ohio money line minus 120. So there you have it. But a big ticket count right now on Miami of Ohio. So Corbie now joins the show, Corbie Craig, who's on every week giving us fantastic college basketball and college football numbers. We've all been betting your totals, although Kelly will only tell you she bets the losers and not the winners. Right. CT, this is the guy giving us all the totals that are moving and getting me limited.
That one was nice yesterday. I was at the Baylor game, Corbie. Thanks for that one. I got a text from Sammy saying we cashed it, so much appreciated.
I did
32 points. Well, I texted Brett. Brett's supposed to tell you.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys this. And since the Western Michigan bet that I shared with both of you, if you think Brett is ever going to share another bet with me, we talk about how I'm going to get revenge on Joey Cheese. Like, I'm still paying for that Western Michigan bet. I'm really glad I was able to get down 10 dimes before everybody was announced out for their opponent. But I'm going to pay for that for the rest of my life. I want you guys to know that.
That was the best game ever. I'll never forget that bowl game.
Corbie, 32 points in OT last night. That's it between George Washington and American.
Yeah, I'm also upset. I don't think Sammy gave me the US from Michigan either. So it sounds like we're just have a whole bunch of stiffing go around. We're gonna have to work this out. But the craziest overtime I've ever seen. It feels like those are the kind of bets, you're only on the other side ever. When's the last time you had an over have 32 points in overtime? It just doesn't happen. So felt great. Always fun. It's always fun to get all of my friends' accounts limited. Sportsbooks just love you betting on American overs. It's the first thing that they want action wise on what was that Wednesday, 10 a.m. So always fun. Also, I was listening to the show before I hopped in. Glad to hear we have some fellow Christmas people. Sam, also heard you have a playlist that you haven't given. I've been on the show every week since it went live, and Sammy hasn't even got me a Christmas playlist. So I don't know how I feel about it. Conflicted at the current moment, but we'll see. We'll see if we can still give some college basketball, even though I'm a little down in the dumps with my Sammy P right now.
Two things. I don't remember the Western Michigan bet when it was. When was that, Kelly? How long ago was that?
3 years ago.
I was going to say, I've lived in Florida for 3 years, and it was when Brett was driving my car from Las Vegas. I got a text. I sent it out. I was in the middle of work doing something, and I didn't include him because he hates group chats. And I did not remind myself to tell him the next time I spoke to him. Because I think earlier in the day, he was like, stop fucking texting me. I'm driving. I'm driving through the mountains. And I'm like, okay, sorry, don't die, please. I'll stop texting you. And then I text you guys right after I got the phone call. I sent it to 8 of you, and he was not included. And then Sammy sent it to Brett, and then it was it came from Kelly. And he was like, it came from who? My girlfriend sent it to you guys.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
You didn't
mind. Sammy did not say a word. I knew it came from Sammy, and I was just hammering the group chat. I'm like, who told Brett this fight came from me? And Sammy was like, I knew it was him. I was pissed. Not necessarily at Sammy, but at the situation, obviously, because I got my ass in a lot of trouble for that, because for obvious reasons, it was a very, very good bet.
So Corbie, anything before we let Kelly and Chris go? Anything college football total, college basketball total for tomorrow? Anything for Saturday? Your totals have been insane. I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe at one point it was 13-5 or 14-5 with your totals.
Yeah, I think it's hey, somebody's got to keep up with the record, especially if it's their own. It is 14-5, Sam, and until it gets worse, we'll keep eye of it. But no, I think it is a very good sun run. I'm glad that it's done good. I was on a show earlier today, and people were like upset that I lost a game. I'm like, dude, at some point I have to lose. Like, I'm running to the absolute scorcher of the sun. I have 32-point overtime, so definitely get that. If you know anything that I do, everyone at Chicken Dinner is not surprised. I have like very tiny bets in college football. Like, I'm not just running to bet conference games. I like American. I like Georgia, Washington. I don't like Georgia, Texas. But I got a text today. Very, I would say, persuasive minds think that this Texas game is way too low. I make it 152.5, so I'm pretty close to betting it over anyways, over some key numbers in a game that's this big. I trust what they're saying, and you know me, Sam. If there's someone smarter than me, I will be the first one to admit it, and I will gladly take a bet on their side. So I took some over 49.5, Texas, Georgia. Just from like a simple logic, like if you even go look at the game that they played this year, it was I think neither team had over 300 yards. I don't think. Still went 45 points. So I trust the inquiring minds who are betting this over. I feel comfortable to get on it with them. I make it 52.5. So plenty fine there. It's not the usual just stinkers I try to give you guys on the show. But if you want to watch probably the best game of the entire year, there's your total.
So 49.5 at multiple places, Georgia and Texas, and those are flat. MGM flat, FanDuel flat. A lot of 50s in Vegas, but you like over 49.5. And the best part is anytime anybody gives a bet when I'm around Kelly, the pen just finds the way to the paper. And it's just, and Corbie, here's the thing. If it wins, you'll hear nothing. If it loses, voodoo doll. Voodoo doll.
Yeah.
Bang, 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 bang.
It's a tough week to get onto the show with Kelly then, because a week 15 total I'm assuming is decently efficient. You know, they kind of know what they're doing in this Texas Georgia game. But hey, we'll take a shot. You know, I have at minimum a coin flip to get it right. All right. Way more fun though.
It's fine. I just got 49.5 minus 105. Like, nice. We're gonna be fine. It's gonna be good.
Remember when it wins, and if it loses, forget this night. Have a better night. Continue on Christmas. And
if it loses, she's coming to that house and taking that tree.
Deservingly so. It's a sick tree. All right, listen. I've had y'all here for too long to be talking all this serious business, talking Texas, Georgia. Who wants that? Kenny. I said Kenny. Sammy, let's go to college basketball. The amount of money that you can bet on a total right now is 0. So let's see, like, for tomorrow. So let's go to a tonight game.
We got action tonight. I love this.
Let me pull this up. I think it hasn't started yet. The college basketball is psychotic.
What's the game? I got you.
Check. As I get a phone call, I might be on a different mic now. Southeast Louisiana playing. Oh boy, who are they even playing? See if you can find Southeast Louisiana for me. They already started.
What's the rotation number? Oh, it already started.
It's an extra too. So the rotation.
Right.
Okay. Whoa. We'll go back. I'll even go to a better game tonight. Listen, this is the won't get limited of the day. Go to TCU Xavier. I don't have the rotation number in front of me.
763, 764.
Yeah. Numbers 140. Let's call it 148 to be fair.
Cool. Over 148. That's fine. I'm at 152. TCU big man has been hurt. They've been playing like this small ball kind of basketball. And everyone is going to look at that and be like, God, that's awful, because their guards aren't good. Frankie Collins, from a numbers standpoint, it's not a good basketball player. But if you like sit back and just watch Frankie Collins play basketball, I've tried to convince everyone. I think he's a good basketball player. I'm going to commit to the thought. I've watched him through high school, through the AAU circuit. He didn't look good at Arizona State. No one looks good at Arizona State at the time. I think Frankie Collins is good. If TCU is going to win this game, they have to run up and down the court. They cannot play half-court offense. I think they're starting 5. I believe there's 2 guys that are 6'7". That's it. So they're going to be in some trouble if they have to not run any tempo. I'm the 152, a smaller bet because it is a major market. And I'm trying to pick on the little guys, but I did take some over here.
That tips in 5 minutes. Xavier TCU.
Nice.
If you shop around, you can get 147 and a half.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple 147 and a halves, but let's call the consensus number 148, and that tips again in 4 minutes. And somebody somewhere is either listening to this show or betting off this show. Bet Online just went to 149. Let me share.
Not me. I
screen.
bet off screen. Don't blame me.
I would never blame you, Kelly, for anything. There you go. Bet Online just goes to 149, 148 at Pinnacle. I love. Oh, there goes another move. Yeah, 148 and a half at Jazz. So
Also, did I hear? Sorry to cut you off, but did I hear that y'all are going to the St. John's game in New York?
Yes.
I know, Kelly, you're a K-State guy or a girl, I guess, but say guy as a reference. But all right, let's see what I make this number because I'm curious.
They're gonna get their asses kicked.
See, I heard you say that, and I just honestly, I think because you're a fan, like I'm similar with UAB, I think it's easy to see the downside. I think K-State is a significantly better team than we've seen right now. Once again,
I
would agree with that. I think on paper they're a much better team than they've been playing.
Yeah, I mean, they get really good looks. Like people can make fun of Tang. He's a weird coach, but
No,
I don't think
love Tang. I'll never make fun of Tang.
There's some people that make some
They
goofy
make fun of
comments
my
on,
coach.
but
That's so rude. I love him.
but
We're gonna
I
be
think
sitting right behind him. CT, you're welcome.
I think you stand a chance. I see Ken Palm is at 10. If it opens 10, I would be on the dog. Which don't tell Sammy I would be on the dog because if I bet on your team on a side, it probably lost. It's not good looks. Totals only. But I'm at 5.5, which I mean it's obviously way off market. I don't imagine this isn't going to open 10. I think Ken Palm's 10. I would imagine this opens 8.5. Probably see some St. John's money on the people who continue to think Ken Palm just knows the way of life and the way of basketball. He has Michigan ranked 100th in tempo, so he obviously has no clue what he's. If you've watched Michigan, they're not 100th in tempo, and the market is still pricing as such. So they say 10. I say probably 6 is a fair number. You're going to get an 8.5 tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Saturday. So I think K-State stands a chance. So some money line would be an interesting drinks bet there at the game.
Oh, I'm absolutely going to bet the money line. I mean, I'm not going because I think they're actually going to get blown out. It's just hampering your expectations from a fan base perspective.
100%. Also, I haven't been to New York. I could be wrong here. Where does St. John's play? Like, what is their home court?
What is it called? Caresco Arena or something? They play on campus.
Well, they play a lot of games at the Garden too.
They do, but this is not one of the games at the Garden.
Yeah,
on campus in Queens.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. For some reason, I had the Garden pulled up, and I was like, "There's no way. This is their home court."
Carneseca Arena.
Yeah, they're going to Carneseca Arena.
Okay, yeah, it's a pretty high home court advantage, so that's unfortunate.
No,
that
they
might be why
have a good home court advantage, which is why I didn't buy seats in the upper deck. I was like, well, if I'm going, I needed to be down below and
mid-student
wreaking havoc.
Cool, yeah. All right, Sammy. All right, y'all give me a second. We might be able to do something really nasty. Oh no, there's 15 minutes left. Can you go to like the Penn State game live?
Wait, I'm on. I laid 1.5 with Penn State. What's the score right now?
They are up 58-34.
Love that.
Purdue. What is it? Can you see like a live total? I know we can't really click live, but
live totals 139.5.
Oh, okay. No, I wouldn't touch that. Okay,
138.5.
Yeah, never mind. For some reason, my screen shows 143. It's behind certainly, but that's what I was checking. No, if it's 39s, I would stay away. Purdue, like the issue here is like if you have a Penn State, this is exactly what you wanted from Penn State. Like Purdue has no ability to speed up. Like they genuinely, I don't think that they can speed up. If they ever get down in the game, like honestly, it would be Penn State or nothing. Like at some point, Purdue's going to take stupid shots trying to speed up to catch up in the game. They're not going to be able to. So would have bet an under because they're just going to be inefficient, but it doesn't look like you're going to be able to do that at all.
All right. Well, Kelly, Chris, I appreciate you stopping in. Again, the show Double Down, which will be back. I'm guessing next week, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, no more tech issues. It's been an interesting football season. I'll say that much.
Well, you can follow them at CTBet16 and at Kelly in Vegas. Safe travels. Enjoy your trip. And
Thanks,
sounds
guys.
like we'll be betting some K-State on Saturday.
Thanks, guys. Cash them.
All right. There goes CT Bets. There goes Kelly in Vegas. Corbie, I did want to show you that I am not only a man that can no longer bet college basketball at a couple places. I lost my lid. Stand by. I have loaded up the gallon jug with the
Let's
y'all
go.
sweet tea. So I got the package. This is unbelievable packaging, by the way. This is the Georgia Peach
Shout out to my brother.
y'all sweet tea. Yeah. Who did outstanding on Shark Tank, by the way. I got a whole bunch of these. There's 10 in every pouch, or in every bag rather. And yeah, man, this stuff is, I'm not from the South like you and your brother are. This stuff is good.
Yeah, that's always the worry of like recommending it to anybody. It's like if you're from the South, if you're watching from the South, you know, like, I mean, I think the back even says 2 cups of sugar, and somebody from the North just would not understand what 2 cups of sugar even looks like, more or less put it in your sweet tea. So it was funny. Also, if you're from the South, you've never seen a gallon jug like what Sammy has. He sent it to me on text and I was so confused. I was like, there's no way that is the correct thing to put some tea in. You need just a good old mama's making sweet tea gallon pitcher, Sammy. Come on.
Well, yeah, or the mason jar, which is another.
The mason jars.
Like everything I see for y'all sweet tea has the mason jar, and I'm like, yeah, you know, if they want to send me a mason jar, they can send me a jar. I'm not going to fork up for the jar. I forked up for the tea.
Missing out, man. The jar instantly makes it 10% better. You know, that's how it works.
Yeah, I don't buy that for 1 second, but it's very, very good, and I support what you support, and your brother did a kick-ass job on the show, and I will probably finish all this at the end of the night. Anything else before we say goodnight?
Let's see. You know, I enjoy just like clicking these live games, but honestly, there's a couple at halftime. Honestly, not really, Sam. Like this, it's going to be the issue, and we need to figure out how we're going to continue on Thursdays, because Thursday is actually the worst college basketball day. I think like Friday. Well, I guess in Ivy League action, it'll be fun. We can talk Ivy on Thursdays, headed into college basketball then. But for now, like there's nothing. I got a question for you, and then we can just end it on a no sports, I guess.
Okay.
Christmas movie. If I'm gonna go watch a Christmas movie right now, what do you choose? I watched Home Alone last night. It's the season.
Alone.
You see it?
Then watch Home Alone 2.
You see it? See, I thought it's Lost in New York. It's pretty good. But then I learned the other day they've made 5 now. So I'm kind of out on any of them but the first.
I was out on 3. I remember seeing 3 in theaters, and I thought, nah, I'm good. I'm good after 3.
Kill a good thing, man. Kill a good thing. They need to make a Jaws 10, and then we'll be fine. But no, I would say, I do have something for you, Sammy. Tomorrow the Blazers play UAB. Go Blazers. Some like actionable info, I guess, is UAB's. I guess that would be their 6th man now. He was a starter, wasn't able to travel to the Bahamas because he had ID issues. They played in the Virgin Islands. They played in that. So UAB stock is a little low because they haven't had their 6th man. He also didn't play in the last game. I think he was suspended for like not being able to go with the team on a trip is a pretty big deal. I think he comes back tomorrow, which would make UAB like exponentially better from what people have seen. Like if you imagine that they're 4 points better than the market, add in Iona's former best player, they're probably like 4.5, 5. He's a really good defender. So that's something to watch. They play tomorrow. I think they'll probably be an 18-point spread versus Prairie View, and they enjoy running up the score. So it would be something I would look at the favorite, but I'm not allowed to talk sides. So Just take that with a grain of salt, whatever you want to do for the Blazers.
Leave the sides to me. I do like Atlanta in the NFL plus 5.5. I also, I didn't want to say this and sort of throw salt on CT and Kelly. I bet some Georgia plus 3. So we're going to be heads up there. And then off the top of the show, this is a little square, but I don't care. I talked about this on the show in mid-November when Jake Paul was minus 185, minus 190 on the money line. I was saying just put that in whatever money line parlay you can. Open them up, fill them when you want to. I feel the same way about Oregon. I like Oregon to win the game. Let's see. Best money line price I can find on Oregon right now on Saturday night. is -1. FanDuel has a -166. That's a good look. Let me share this screen one more time, and then we'll get out of here. This is the Odds Logic screen. 166 at FanDuel. Let me get that game queued up on the top here. So here's all your money line prices right now across the market. Pinnacle 168, FanDuel 166. As you can see, MGM has -185. Do not bet that. And they sponsor the morning show. I am not putting that in a parlay. But these 168s and these 166s, and even, if you can find, there's Bet Online 169. I'd be betting a decent amount on Oregon, but not laying like 1,600, 1,700 to win a dime. I'm talking about putting that in parlays with a bunch of other stuff. And that's probably my favorite look this weekend. I don't want to say I'd be surprised if Penn State won, because it's a football game with a 3.5-point spread. I just really like the advantages for Oregon, and I also like Dan Lanning a lot against James Franklin. So that'll be something that I'll be doing quite a bit over the weekend. Oregon money line wheeled with a bunch of different stuff. Do like the Falcons +3.5, and then Oregon wheeled with Buffalo on Sunday is like +150. Ducks win, Bills win, I win. So I think those are two pretty good legs. And let's just say that they will be whacked. They will be bet. All right, Corbie, appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Over 3,500 watching live on YouTube and X. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving, and we hope you make some money into the weekend. Last full weekend of college football. I cannot believe, Corbie. I cannot believe college football is over. Feels like just yesterday. It was early September.
It was a great season, though. We had a good season. So excited to do the same with college basketball now. We have to end up NFL. Also, I think I told you about this. I bet I just kind of ended a closing statement, but I have a bet every team. It's like championship. I'm down to, like, in 2024 in a parlay. I'm down to the Ravens and Texas. Texas looks fine. It's like 3.5 to 1. How are the Ravens in the NFL? I have no clue. I haven't kept up. Do I have a chance?
5 losses already. What's the bet?
Ooh. Ravens to win the Super Bowl is like the last 2 legs of my futures of like every team to win championship.
They could win the Super Bowl, but they have lost a lot of really close games this year. Currently,
we still have life, though.
In the playoff picture, they are the 6th seed.
It's gonna be tough.
They just sort of fell apart at the wrong time in terms of standing. But look, if they get in, Lamar's going to be tough to beat. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm holding.
We have a shot. We have a shot.
They have a shot. That's all that matters. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening and downloading. If you appreciate what we do, you go to YouTube, the handle @betchickendinner. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and we'll see you next Thursday right here on Chicken Dinner.